Peace does not come of itself. It must be kept upon the earth, in the skies above the earth, and on the waters of the earth.
The purpose of our military strength is peace. The purpose of our partnership is peace. So our negotiations for an end to nuclear tests and our opposition to nuclear dispersal are fully consistent with our attention to defense. These are all complementary parts of a single strategy for peace.
A strategy for peace, to which President John F. Kennedy dedicated this country a few months before his tragic death. A strategy to which the new president, Lyndon Johnson, has rededicated the nation.
We have proved that we are a good and reliable friend to those who seek peace and freedom. We have shown that we can also be a formidable foe to those who reject the path of peace, and those who seek to impose upon us are our allies, the yoke of tyranny.
In this uneasy world, peace must be and is kept by the bombers of the United States Air Force, by the Polaris submarines of the U.S. Navy, by the intercontinental ballistic missiles of the U.S. Air Force. These are the peacekeepers: the missile, the submarine, the bomber. A strategy for peace, strength, and the readiness to use it. Able to move swiftly against aggression if need be anywhere on Earth. In the Mediterranean, in Vietnam, in Berlin, anywhere in the world, at any time, in any force. There can be no strategy without military might. The ultimate in nuclear weapons is, strangely, not enough. The forces of conventional warfare are still needed. This is an airlift, a new technique in mass troop movement. The U.S. Strike Command has airlifted a full combat-ready division, 16,000 men, to Europe in 3 days. In today's terms, a strategy must be mobile and swift. Our defense lines today are those of the free world. This is the sword of the free world, the armed forces of more than 40 free nations. The United States and its allies mobilize to meet aggression in a common defense. The free world's sword and its nuclear shield. Behind this shield, the world still breathes freely. Its cities still glow after dark. Its boulevards still pulse with the tempo of everyday affairs. Its universities are still alive with the vital exchange of knowledge and ideas. There is serenity still. The work of the world goes on in every land as people seek to fulfill their needs. They build with tomorrow in mind. The world breathes freely still. But if the shield be lowered, if the sword be sheathed, then no man is safe.
Sky King, this is Dropkick. This is a red alert. Repeat, this is a red alert.
on red alert to take off in a matter of minutes. Never more than 15 minutes to hurl a SAC bomber aloft from more than 70 strategic air command bases. Half the bomber fleet, approximately 600 planes, on ground alert. Others, aloft at all times, are fully armed, thermonuclear bombs in the belly, missiles under the wings. "24 hours a day in flight. Rendezvous, 6 miles above the Arctic, a B-52 Superfortress from Dayton, Ohio, joins a fuel tanker out of an Alaskan base. 100,000 pounds of fuel are transferred at 400 miles per hour. The bombers of the Strategic Air Command, standing by for the word which would send them screaming over their targets. Where would that word come from? The ultimate decision must be made here, by one man alone, for it is the highest law of the land that the military might of the United States be forever under the command of the President. The man who bears this awesome burden has promised the world that our arms will never be used to strike the first blow in any attack. And so, for the present, the world breathes freely because of the sword, because of the shield, and because of the promise of the man whose responsibility they are. Polaris, the nuclear submarine, the missile-launching submarine. Silent, swift, deadly. Man used nature's blueprint to build her. Whale-back mammoth, her dorsal fin is like the sail of a marlin, a vessel built to cruise beneath the sea at all times. The ancient legend of Jonah has come alive in the belly of this great metal whale, which has swallowed a crew of over 100 men. Over 100 men, moving swiftly through a dark, silent world for weeks on end. And what is the reason for this highly complex mechanism? 16 deadly reasons. These tubes each contain a Polaris missile capable of being fired from beneath the sea at targets 2,500 miles away. Here, in this one submarine, in the thermonuclear warheads of these 16 missiles, is carried more explosive power than all the bombs exploded in World War II. There will be 41 Polaris submarines. 41 hidden, constantly moving launching pads for 656 Polaris missiles. Missiles which will never be fired unless the United States or its allies have been attacked first. A strategy for peace, to assure a better world for our children. A world in which they may look safely and confidently to the future, to the day when they may have their chance to add to all that man has achieved on this earth. These are the intercontinental ballistic missiles. Titan, Atlas, and Minuteman. Minuteman is a hardened missile, stored underground beneath this 30-ton door, guarded day and night by electric eyes. Invulnerable, save from a highly improbable bullseye from an H-bomb. Speed, 15,000 miles per hour. Range, 6,000 miles. Warhead, thermonuclear in the megaton range. Mission, to strike back. Mark well this American eagle. In one talon bristle the arrows of war, but in the other he bears the olive branch of peace. It is toward this peaceful olive branch that his gaze is directed. The USA is the only nation in the history of the world which has created a government agency whose sole concern is arms control and disarmament, a ministry of peace. Arms control is the urgent business of all nations. This is arms control. No one man can fire a missile. The launching keys must be turned at the same instant, and the keyholes are 16 feet apart. This is arms control. A SAC bomber cannot proceed to its target until it is given the command from the President of the United States. Even then, it cannot go until 3 members of its crew have verified the authenticity of the command message. This is arms control. Aboard a Polaris submarine, the President's command to fire must be authenticated by both captain and executive officer before the ship can go to battle station's missiles. This, too, is arms control. The men of the U.S. Strike Command are prepared to strike and hold anywhere in the world, to meet local aggression and stop it before it can grow into nuclear war. A significant step forward in arms control is a teletype in Moscow, in constant touch with another in Washington, establishing a hotline to avoid on each side dangerous delays, misunderstandings, and misreadings of the other's actions, which might occur at a time of emergency. In this age of push-button technology, we want the first button to be pushed to launch words, not war. Arms control. The Test Ban Treaty. An agreement to stop exploding atomic and thermonuclear devices in the atmosphere, under the sea, and in outer space, endorsed by more than 100 of the world's nations.
In this age when there can be no losers in peace and no victors in war, we must recognize the obligation to match national strength with national restraint. We must be prepared at one and the same time for both the confrontation of power and the limitation of power.
Arms control, a part of the American strategy for peace, and the first step toward the ideal of total world disarmament. Disarmament is possible. The United States disarmed after World War II, its ships decommissioned, guns silenced, its planes junked, now useless. 11 million soldiers, sailors, and Marines demobilized, returned home to civilian life. Its atomic monopoly freely offered to the world for peaceful purposes.
We are here to make a choice between the quick and the dead.
In 1946, the United States offered to destroy its atomic weapons. It was vetoed by the Soviets. Through all the years since then, the U.S. has labored to create an acceptable disarmament plan. No disagreement was ever settled on a battlefield which could not have been better resolved in the Parliament of Man. Therefore, let disarmament begin, so that the youth of this world may grow up in a world of light. What about the weapons, the planes, the subs, the bomb? For the most part, destroyed, defused, disarmed. Keep the peace, a United Nations peace force. For when nations are united, no nation needs an army. This is the American plan for peace. But till the day it becomes a reality,
this nation will keep its commitments from South Vietnam to West Berlin. We will be unceasing in the search for peace, resourceful in our pursuit of areas of agreement, even with those with whom we differ. In this age when there can be no losers in peace and no victors in war, we must recognize the obligation to match national strength with national restraint. Those who test our courage will find it strong, and those who seek our friendship will find it honorable. We will demonstrate anew that the strong can be just in the use of strength, and the just can be strong in the defense of justice.